Her dress ripped as laughter filled the hallway. "Did your grandma sew that trash?" a bully sneered, pointing at the faded fabric. The crowd joined in, mocking the black girl who stood clutching her books, trying to disappear. To them, she was invisible, just another target, too poor, too different, too easy. But what they didn't know was this. In just 7 days, the same girl they laughed at would walk into school with something that silenced them all. Have you ever been judged by people who had no idea who you really were? Tell us in comments. Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. It was a quiet morning in a small town where everyone seemed to know each other's business. The hallways of the local high school buzzed with chatter, sneakers squeaking across the polished floor. Among the sea of faces was Amara, a 15-year-old girl who carried herself with a mix of shyness and quiet determination. She loved colors, fabrics, and patterns, and though her family didn't have much, she stitched together her own dresses late at night, guided by a worn-out sewing machine her grandmother had passed down. To her, clothing was more than just fabric. It was a story, a reflection of heritage, of creativity, of resilience. But to the other kids at school, especially the ones who flaunted designer logos and name brands, her homemade outfits were an easy target. Amara wasn't blind to the whispers. She noticed the rolled eyes, the muffled laughter. Yet every morning, she still walked into school with something new she had created, a quiet rebellion stitched in every seam. At home, things weren't easy. Her mother worked double shifts, and money was always tight. While other girls ordered dresses online, Amara spent her evenings cutting old curtains, repurposing thrift store finds, and transforming scraps into something beautiful. She dreamed of becoming a fashion designer, of one day proving that style wasn't about money, but vision. Still, deep down, she knew high school wasn't kind to dreamers who looked different, especially black girls who dared to stand out. The stage was already set. The bullies, with their cruel words and mocking stares, were waiting for her next creation, and Amara, with her quiet strength, was about to face the kind of humiliation that could crush a spirit or ignite something greater. If you were Amara, would you keep wearing your creations with pride, or would you try to blend in? The day of the school assembly arrived, a Friday when the entire student body gathered in the gym. Amara had chosen to wear one of her boldest designs yet, a dress stitched from leftover denim, patchworked into a flowing skirt with bright patterned trim. She had stayed up until midnight finishing it, fingers raw from sewing, but when she looked in the mirror that morning, she felt proud. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. The moment she walked into the gym, whispers began to spread. At first, it was just a few glances. Then came the smirks, followed by loud laughter that bounced off the walls. One of the older boys pointed, exaggerating a gag as if her dress was something disgusting. Another girl shouted, "Looks like she raided a trash can!" The crowd erupted, and Amara felt every eye drilling into her. Her cheeks burned, her hands clenched tight around her bag, but she forced herself not to run. The teachers barely intervened. One gave a half-hearted "that's enough" before moving on, pretending not to see. Amara realized in that moment just how alone she was. The bullies thrived because no one ever stopped them, and she was an easy target, poor, creative, and black in a school where being different was treated like a crime. For the rest of the day, the humiliation followed her like a shadow. In the cafeteria, kids pointed at her plate, muttering about food stamps fashion. In the hallway, someone tugged at the hem of her dress, ripping a stitch. Each insult was meant to break her spirit, to remind her she didn't belong. But what they didn't know was that each cruel word was planting something inside her, an unshakable fire. That weekend, Amara went home and pulled out every piece of fabric she had. She spread them across her tiny room, her sewing machine waiting like a weapon. She thought about quitting, about hiding, but instead she began to design. Every laugh, every sneer, every insult turned into fuel. She worked for hours, sketching, cutting, sewing, her hands moving with purpose. For the first time, she wasn't just making a dress. She was building proof that she was more than their cruelty. By Monday morning, the school halls buzzed again. Rumors spread quickly. Amara had been spotted carrying a large garment bag. Whispers of curiosity mixed with the lingering mockery. The bullies smirked, ready for another easy laugh. They didn't realize that this time Amara wasn't walking into school as their victim. She was preparing to become their reckoning. What do you think will happen when Amara finally shows them what she's been working on? The gym was packed again, this time for the talent showcase, a tradition where students displayed skills from singing to comedy. Amara hadn't signed up to perform, but when a teacher noticed her carrying that garment bag, she was encouraged to step forward. She hesitated, fear crawling up her spine, but then she remembered every laugh, every cruel word, every moment they tried to shrink her. She walked to the center of the stage, unzipped the bag, and pulled out her creation. It wasn't just a dress. It was art. Layers of fabric in deep blues, golds and rich patterns sewn together with a precision that seemed impossible for someone her age. Every stitch told a story. Of her grandmother's hands guiding her, of nights spent under a dim lamp, of resilience woven into cloth. Gasps spread through the crowd. What they had mocked days ago now stood as undeniable beauty. For a moment, the bullies tried to laugh, but their voices cracked against the silence that fell over the gym. The same boy who had gagged at her denim dress stared, speechless. The girl who had mocked her whispered something under her breath, but no one joined in. The power had shifted. Amara stood taller, holding her work like a crown, her eyes scanning the room. For the first time, they weren't looking at her with ridicule. They were looking at her with awe. The applause started slowly, then grew until the entire gym erupted in cheers. Phones came out, snapping pictures, recording videos. Amara's work wasn't just being seen, it was being celebrated. In that moment, she wasn't the poor girl with homemade clothes. She was the designer, the visionary, the one they could no longer dismiss. As she left the stage, her heart pounded. This wasn't just about one dress. It was about reclaiming her voice, about proving that what they tried to tear down could rise stronger than ever. What do you think happens next? Do the bullies back down? Or does Amara's life change in a way no one saw coming? The video of Amara's dress spread beyond the walls of her school. By the next day, clips of her showcase were circulating online, posted by classmates who had once laughed at her. Local pages shared it, then fashion bloggers picked it up. Within a week, Amara had more attention than she ever imagined. Strangers messaged her with encouragement, small businesses reached out, and even a boutique owner in the city invited her to showcase her designs. The same students who mocked her now whispered her name with respect, some even pretending they had always supported her. But Amara didn't forget. What mattered wasn't their sudden admiration. What mattered was that she had turned humiliation into triumph. She had taken every insult and spun it into fabric, every sneer and stitched it into strength. Her first small collection, 5 unique pieces, was launched on social media under the name Threads of Resilience. Within days, she sold out. For Amara, it wasn't about the money. It was about proving that being different was not a weakness. It was her greatest power. Her story became more than just a win for her. It was a mirror held up to every classroom, every workplace, every corner where racism and bullying tried to crush someone's spirit. It showed that talent, creativity, and determination could rise above hate. But it also left a question hanging heavy in the air. Why does someone have to suffer humiliation before their worth is seen? Amara's journey is a reminder that voices once silenced can become the loudest. Her dresses carried more than patterns and colors. They carried defiance, hope, and a future no one could deny her. So I ask you, how many Amaras are still being mocked right now, their brilliance hidden behind fear? And how different would the world look if we chose to see their value before the pain? Show some love with a like and subscribe to stay inspired.